Hey there, everyone. Before we start the show, we here at Popcorn for Dinner want to give a big shout out to our good friend and illustrator, Kyle Kedzik, for helping us celebrate making it to 40 episodes with some brand new custom artwork, which is now up on all of our social media accounts. We love it. We hope you love it. And if you're looking for some new custom artwork for your business or project, you can look him up on Facebook at Kyle Kedzik, or even drop him a line at kylekedzik@gmail.com. That's KYLEKEDZUCH@gmail.com. Hey everybody, welcome back to Popcorn for Dinner. This is Jeff.
And Kelly.
Video Game Movie Month is moving right along. Started off last week with Doom, the Dwayne Johnson Doom movie.
The Rock.
Watched The Rock, that's right, he was The Rock. Started with that one. We watched the unrated version of that movie, specifically. That was the one that was available to us, so we watched it. This week, we actually had a choice.
Yes.
Because the DVD that we have came with the theatrical cut and the unrated director's cut. So we watched the unrated director's cut of the 2008 neo-noir action thriller, Max Payne. What did you know about Max Payne coming into this?
I knew he was some sort of cop and not quite a dirty cop, but he uses some dirty methods to achieve his goal. Whatever.
I mean, Max Payne.
Yeah.
The name itself is just...
Yeah. I also knew that the whole bullet time thing...
Yeah, that was huge.
Was a thing for him. I really have more perspective from the point of working at GameStop when Max Payne 3 came out.
Yeah, and I know that one was way different than the original ones, because I played the first one. I didn't play the second one, but I know that those movies were gritty New York City games, and then that third one took place in Florida or some shit. It was it was some tropical paradise, and he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt and shit instead of the dark overcoat and stuff. So it was wow, this is way different. But I knew that this one was based on the original game that I did play and vaguely remember. It's not something that was oh man, I played it so much. I remember it goes from here to there to here to there. I know they changed a bunch of shit for the movie.
Of course.
I know that the video game company that made the game kind of disowned the movie.
Oh.
They were a little bit yeah, that didn't quite do it. They weren't thrilled with it. I'm definitely not gonna, because I did go back and sort of look at some old Max Payne stuff to reacquaint myself. Oh god, yeah, this, that. So I know how the plot is different, but I'm not going to really get into that at all.
Okay.
Because the plot to the movie is confusing enough than to lay another plot on top of it that it was supposed to be doing instead of this one. It was super weird. But this fucking movie, I mean, I will say that I was caught off guard by practically everything. I have never seen it. I don't think I've watched the trailer since it maybe first came out, so it was nothing. It was just Mark Wahlberg's in it. And that was it. That was where my knowledge of this movie sort of began. So the fact that it's so you got Mark Wahlberg as Max Payne, which is stupid bad casting in my opinion.
Yeah. He's a phenomenal actor.
When he gets the right part.
Yeah.
He can fucking nail it. When the character is given a little bit of something to go on, in The Departed, where he's kind of this motor mouth motherfucker who just, talking shit left and right. That's a character he can play really well.
Yeah.
But in this case, he's just such... I wrote halfway through the movie, I was they turned Max Payne, who has a sort of... I don't know. Those games have such a tone to them where it's we know that we're pulpy, noir, almost parody. You know what I mean? To the Max Payne, Jesus Christ. It's they're almost winking so hard about like what they're trying to be. Like it has a sense of humor about itself.
Yeah.
That this movie and Mark Wahlberg especially does not have.
Yeah.
At all. They're playing it dead serious. And it's like, dude, like this story is literally like every noir story ever just crammed into one. You know what I mean? Like, oh, the dead family, the femme fatale, like all the corruption and the this and that. Like it's fucking, it is, oh my God. And so the like trying to play it super straight is like there's nothing new here.
Yeah.
It's not like you're breaking any ground. Like you have to have fun with it. It's got to have like a little bit of like levity to it and not just like jokes.
Yeah.
But like just play it a little a little better. You know, as I was fucking watching it, I realized who would make a perfect Max Payne. And that is, I think it's Dean Winters, the guy who plays the Vulture on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That dude has enough fucking self-awareness to play it just winkingly enough for it to be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But in this case, it was like, oh my God, everyone is taking this way too seriously right now for how ridiculous it is. Yeah, it seems like it was just, I don't know, man. But on top of Mark Wahlberg, you get Mila Kunis.
Yeah.
I had no clue she was in this.
Yeah. And the first scene, like when her first scene, they don't really show her. Like she's kind of shadowed.
She's in the back. It's like far away. Then she's like pointing at the girl that Max is with.
Yeah.
And it's kind of in the distance. Yeah.
And I literally wrote Mila Kunis. Like, was that, did I see that right? And then you see her up close later and like, yeah, I was.
Look at that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That was pretty dope. Like, just something about her portrayal. It seemed like she kind of knew what she was getting into with this.
Specifically, like the way she would like swing around corners with that gun.
Yeah, she was super.
Like, she was into it.
Yeah, it is a bummer that she's given such a dud role. Where like towards the end of the movie, there was a point where she literally is just like, "I'm not gonna come with you." And then just doesn't. And it's like, what? Why? Yeah. They give no reason for her to not be a part of things. She's just like, I'm going to go away for a while. I wrote several times in my notes, oh yeah, Mona's in this movie.
Yeah.
The fucking follow fucking Mark Wahlberg, Max Payne for like 40 minutes. And then all of a sudden a car pulls up and Mona gets out. And it's like, oh shit, that's right. There's this whole thing that's going on too. That's somehow kind of related. There was somebody, the guy who plays Alex, his partner who gets murdered, Donald Logue.
Yes.
I love Donald Logue.
He was the dad on
Grounded for Life. Fucking fantastic. He's great. He's been in a bunch of stuff as that little sort of bit character guy, and he's always fucking great.
Yeah.
But the crown jewel of casting in terms of fucking turning this movie on and being like, oh my God, they're in this movie? Ludicrous. Ludacris as the fucking Lieutenant Bravura who comes in to do shit and investigate shit.
Yeah.
I was not expecting his character to be the one that like made the most logical sense. Like he did things that a person should do in the situations they were in instead of doing the dumbass shit that everybody else is doing, especially Max. There are several notes where I was just like, how is this guy the hero of this movie with how dumb he is in these critical moments?
Yeah. So many poor decisions.
But essentially, like the plot, the story of Max Payne is that he is he's a detective, like he's a cop in general, because in the games he's DEA, but in the movie they make him NYPD.
Yeah,
it's like okay, I guess
former homicide detective.
Yeah, so it's like okay, I guess that's not really that much of a change. Whatever. Yeah. So he's a cop, and he had beautiful wife and a newborn kid, and some junkies busted into his house, murdered his family, and one of them escaped. Yeah. And he's never been able to find them, and it's like tormented him. I guess it's been 3 years. I think they mentioned a couple of times. It's like, it's been 3 years, Max.
Yeah.
Something like that. So it's like he's been dealing with that, and that all pretty much rings true. Like that's the main story of Max Payne. You can't really change that. Otherwise it's like, what are you doing? Why are you even making Max Payne if that's not the story? I forget if the junkies get away in the game. I thought he murdered all of them and then just like got wound up in like finding out where they came from and whatever, blah, blah. I don't remember there being a guy who got away, but maybe there was. But that's his whole thing. It's sort of like The Punisher, where it's like family gets killed, but in this case, I mean, if you're playing the game right, you murder everybody. But in the movie, he has to sort of be more of a cop. He can't just literally shotgun everyone until the end of the movie.
Yes.
And then he shotguns everybody, which that was a bit of a giddy moment for me of like remembering the game, because it's like, yeah, dude, the shotgun was the best gun in the game, and you literally just go around the room blasting people and you get through and you beat the game and it's perfect. So it's like, yeah, absolutely, he has to get the shotgun because that's the best one.
Yeah.
But essentially he gets embroiled in a mystery revolving around essentially the murder of his family and like who did it, who's responsible. Essentially, he's just looking for that guy, the guy that got away, the guy that was there and killed his family and he couldn't track down or whatever.
Yeah.
Of course, the movie starts with a scene that comes like an hour and a half into the movie because the beginning of the actual movie is not nearly interesting enough.
Yeah.
Because it's literally Max as a file clerk. And I couldn't believe that. I was like, that is definitely not part of the game, that they fucking stuck him down in the archives and he's fucking clerking. Like, that's it? That's all he's doing? Like, no.
No, they said, someone throughout the movie said at some point that he, like, asked to be down there, like, volunteered to be down there because he was still, like, looking through things, trying to find similarities, to find clues, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, man, the clues. Dude, the fact that he is supposed to have been, like, sort of on this case for the past 3 years because it's his family and they were murdered and whatever. It is astounding at what he hasn't put together. There were moments in the movie where I was like, this isn't a revelation for Max, right? Because he should know this already. And then it's like, no, he didn't. Like, how? Oh my God. Oh, he's the worst detective. But essentially I don't even remember exactly what gets him to that club. He goes to meet an informant he has, right?
Yes.
And it's
because the last lead was the guy that he like lured into attacking him in the subway.
Oh, right. Oh my God, that's right. They're in the subway. The fucking junkies attack them and they're having crazy hallucinations and shit. Like they're tweaking from this crazy new designer drug that they're doing, which eventually they say is Valkyr. And I think that's game worthy game. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. But it's this crazy ass drug that I don't understand. I don't understand how it gets used as much as it does. Liquid? It's like literally it's just a vial of blue liquid that you drink. But it doesn't seem like fun. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
At no point does this drug seem like it has a high. It's literally like they show that one woman in the room at the end of one of the scenes where it's just like, and then we're going to cut to this random woman that you never see again. And she's going to take a big giant hit of this stuff and immediately see demons and like fear for her life and like freak out on it.
Yeah.
It was like, there was nothing. There was absolutely no like moment of like, oh, that euphoric drug high that makes me deal with the terrible come down with the demons. It's literally just you drink it, you see monsters. It's like, why would anyone take this?
Unless the euphoria comes after the monsters. You have to endure that to get to bliss.
I don't know. Well, they at least don't explain that. So it really just seems like,
oh yeah.
It's like, how do you get addicted to a drug where it's like you see someone take it and they just immediately freak out and you're like, I want me some of that.
Yeah.
That's a terrible, I don't understand that at all. But yeah, he makes them attack him because this guy is, I don't even remember. It's like he worked with a guy who was killed at Max's house, right? He was one of the junkies who got killed. This guy's like old friend or something like that. That's like the best lead he's got anymore.
Yeah.
And he meets the guy. He doesn't tell him anything. Does he just die?
He starts spouting what seems like crazy stuff about like following the wings or
wings
whatever.
And feathers and fucking shit like that.
Yeah. And then he dies.
Yeah, he just dies,
something.
right?
I don't know that they show his death. I think they cut away before he dies to the guy that's running down the tunnel.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was the fucking funniest thing that I've seen in a long time. How confused were you by all of that? by all of the demon visions and shit.
Is that in the game?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
None of that is in the game.
Okay. Because one of my notes was like, there's more demons in this movie than there was in Doom.
Right?
Like, how?
Oh my
what
God,
is
it
going
was so
on?
fucking dumb. But yeah, I was watching that, and it was like, essentially the demon things that he's seeing distract him while he's running down the subway tunnel. It distracts him to the point where he doesn't realize that a train is coming.
Yeah.
And it just fucking runs him over and obliterates. Which was like, why did we need to see that?
Yeah.
Other than to set up these demons that aren't actually there.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it's just showing us the hallucinations, but it's like, you're going to do this like 7 more times, movie. So I guess you just needed it for like a brutal moment of the train running him over.
I guess to show how like real it is to that person to the point that like you won't notice an oncoming train.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just that it's not important later at all.
Yeah, no, not at all.
So he runs out of leads. And so he goes to his informant, who I wrote down. I just said, Uncle Jack, because that's Uncle Jack from It's Always Sunny.
Oh.
Charlie's creepy uncle who tapes giant hands over his hands. Oh, my God. I saw him, and I'm like, yes. So he goes to his place, and he's a scummy dude who's having a big giant party, and people are fucking drinking and doing drugs and all that kind of shit. And
half-naked ladies walking around.
Yeah, the stereotypical fucking like bad guy movie party. That's where he meets Natasha, who is Mila Kunis's character's sister. I don't quite understand. Like, he notices that people are doing that drug, right?
Well, I don't think he notices that at first. He notices her tattoo first, the wing tattoo.
Right.
And so that makes him want to follow her. And then he gets distracted by a party thrower informant friend telling him that he like essentially needs to get the fuck out.
Right. But then he goes like upstairs, like he follows her and he's looking through the door and there's like a...
That's where I'm assuming that he has to notice in that scene that they're doing that drug.
Yeah.
That's
what's getting to me. It's like that drug was all over the crime scene when his family was murdered. So it's like that should be the thing that he's following. He keeps talking about like not having any leads, like being almost out of it. And it's like, why hasn't this been followed up on?
Yeah.
These drugs that are so like specific and different than any other drug on the market. You know what I mean? It's like it's a practically glowing vial of blue liquid. Like there's no way to not notice that shit. Yeah. And he seems to see it and then kind of just be like, I guess I'll figure that out later.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to have any like drive to be like, oh, they have it here. Let me start investigating. Let me figure something out.
Yeah.
Instead, he just bails with Natasha, goes back to his apartment. She tells him to fuck her and call her by his dead wife's name.
Yeah.
Which I just wrote, oof.
That's
like even to a guy who isn't scarred by her like murder. That's a ridiculous thing to ask of somebody.
Yeah.
And to look at it as though you're like doing them a favor too. Like, oh, it'll be so good for you. Like, no. What?
No.
You're a nightmare. So he kicks her out. And being a terrible cop, he doesn't realize that she takes his wallet and or badge or one of those wallet badges. I don't know.
At the very least, his wallet.
Yeah, so she apparently takes his wallet. I don't think you see this. They don't like show her like stealing it off a table.
No,
it just
see
happens
him the
later.
Next morning, like lift up some like files or stuff and like pat his pockets.
Yeah,
and then
like,
just like, all right, well, that's missing.
Moving on. Not like I'm a detective or anything.
Right. You should be able to figure out a simple thing of who has my wallet.
Yeah, who could have my wallet? But so she takes it, she leaves, she makes a phone call to some random guy who is just going to be another fucking dead end moment later in the movie. She's calling for drugs. Yeah, she's calling for more drugs because she's tweaking. And then she starts seeing these demons that like come down to attack her and shit. All the while that bald dude, I forget, Lupino, he winds up being like a main bad guy. But at the beginning of the movie, he's just kind of a dude, and I just wrote Baldy McTattoo Face because I didn't know his name, and I didn't know how important he was because he didn't have any lines. Yeah. He just stands there menacingly on rooftops, staring down at everybody.
That's funny because all of my notes I just called him Tattoo Face.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know this guy's name.
Yeah.
Like they may have said it like once really quickly.
They didn't.
Okay. All right, good.
They said it like an hour into the movie. You finally learn who he is. But he's like watching her from the rooftop, apparently, while she's having this freak out with the demons.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I wrote, I wrote down, these demons aren't real, right? Tell me these demons aren't real, movie, because the next scene is them like essentially discovering her like torn to shreds body in the alleyway. Yeah. Still don't understand what happened there.
Yeah, me neither.
Did Lupino go down there after she died of like fright or whatever the fuck it is that kills you with this drug? Like she apparently overdosed or had withdrawals to death or whatever the fuck? Because I don't understand what killed her.
No, they have to be real. Because later in the movie, they pull the guy out the window.
No, they're not real.
They're not real.
They're not real. That was yeah, exactly. Okay. Like that was what in his mind was doing it to him.
Okay, because it definitely looked.
No, yeah, it definitely
like he was like went further away than just like falling backwards out a window.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely did, and it was definitely made to like look as though, but they're not because otherwise the movie does not reckon with that at all. Like they're never fought or defeated or anything.
Okay, so, fair point.
They better be fucking fake.
Yeah. All right. So Tattoo Face must have
just come down and like ripped her body to shreds. Where it's like, why? Why are you even like risking? Like you're gonna get caught. Yeah. And I don't care how much drugs you're on, and as much as the movie like was confusing to me later about how powerful he was because he was taking the drugs, because it was like for most people they take the drugs and it just tweaks them out and they see monsters. Yeah. And the like 1% get like superpowers or whatever.
Yeah, they become like superhuman.
Yeah, they get like
but can still die from a gunshot.
Yeah, which that's what I was glad about, because I was like, he's not actually like immortal, right? Movie, like he's not actually gonna like be able to like heal wounds or something. Like, is this another fucking become a super monster at the end of the movie because you took a drug thing? Yeah. Holy shit! How did we already have 2 of them? We're 2 movies into this fucking month, and they both have the same fucking bullshit at the end. Oh my god. But so yeah, he like takes the drug and gets like super crazy strong and fearless, and he's not scared and all that kind of shit and whatever. So it's like, so I guess he doesn't care if somebody sees him. Yeah. If he like jumps down there to like tear her body to pieces. But like, again, just why? And that fucking scene had the dumbest goddamn cop in the world when they go up and like talk about the body. I think it's Alex and the other guy, or whoever the fuck it was. Yeah. And they're talking about it, and the dude says, he's like, looks like a blade, but there's too much blood for that to be right. What? What? How could there be too much blood for a blade? Like, if you have a big giant blade, you could just slash them open and all the blood would come out. Yeah. How could there be too much blood? It's absurd. Yeah. That was the dumbest line. I was like, fucking movie, man.
Seriously.
Why? Why is everyone so dumb all the time? There's no reason for it. That guy didn't need to say anything. Nope. But so Alex is Max's old partner. And he calls him in because it's like it was his crime scene, essentially, that Natasha's body was at. Yeah. And Max, we found your wallet here. I was like, how could he have let his wallet get stolen? What a terrible cop. Oh my God. But so it's like that, you know, if not implicates, it at least makes him a person of interest of like, we want to talk to you about this. What the fuck happened here? You notice that she's in 40 pieces. Yeah. I'm wondering if you know anything about that. And we learn that they've kind of like fallen apart, you know, like they're not buds anymore. Yeah. Because that one, I think another dumbass cop at the crime scene is like, oh, you guys kiss and make up? It's like, Jesus Christ, what is everyone on the force a dick?
Yeah, seriously.
But so it's clear that they've had a little falling out. But then they're leaving that crime scene and they drive off to a diner or something. I don't even remember.
Bar, I think.
Yeah, they're outside a bar and it's raining because the whole movie it's either raining or snowing. And it's raining and they decide not to go inside. They decide to have the argument standing outside the car in the rain with the doors open.
Fucking stupid. So fucking stupid. They would be dead.
Oh, it was so funny to me. Like, why would you? What the hell? Like, this director must have really just fucking loved how people look with rain dripping off of them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we got it. Oh, we're
because it was pouring.
Yeah, it wasn't a light mist. It was a full-on fucking storm. And they're just like, yeah, this is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But they stand out in the rain and they have a fucking argument. And Max insinuates that Alex didn't do enough to find the killer of his wife, of Max's family.
Yeah.
And they have this argument out in the street, and he's like, is that what you think, Max? You think that I didn't do enough to save Michelle and the baby or to get the killer or whatever? And I was like, how is this argument happening now? This is the argument that tore them apart. Like, this is the basis of the like what their relationship is right now.
Yeah.
How are they just having this conversation now? That is impossible. Like, that's literally, it's out of time. Like, that's not where that scene took place. That scene took place 3 years ago or whatever. And that's where they are now. It was like, what is this argument? Why are they even having this? And so Alex feels shitty and he wants to do more. So he's like looking back into the case file of Max's family's murder and all that shit.
Well, Max had said something about like Natasha knew someone or something and mentioned her tattoo, I believe.
Something like that.
And so then Alex went back and was looking at the photos and then noticed the tattoo on one of the guys that was dead.
That was the first thing that I was like, Max knows this already, right? Like, there's no way he has not pored over those pictures.
Yeah.
Like, even if he's not the detective on the case, I highly doubt you could keep those sorts of things from someone whose house was that crime scene. You know what I mean? Like, he would have to be able to access that.
Yeah, especially as a detective.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and he was there and he saw it and he was, present for it and everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, he knows about this tattoo, right? He's looked into this tattoo before, right? And then apparently it's like, no, this is a huge thing that they're just figuring out now, 3 years later. And I was like, I cannot believe that this is like the thing that's going to start it off is a clue that was fucking right there for the whole time. Nothing new happened here.
It came out of an old file.
Yeah. Like, the only thing was that it was like, I saw somebody with the tattoo doing something with those drugs. And it's like, yeah, you already did at that crime scene 3 years ago when that dude with that tattoo was on those drugs.
Yeah.
Like, it's already happened. Oh my God.
I mean, I guess at the time, you wouldn't necessarily link the two. You didn't really have a reason to link that tattoo, especially if the guy had other tattoos, like link that particular wing tattoo to the drug. But like, still
3 years later, you think he would have chased every avenue, including the tattoos.
Yeah.
And also it makes you think that, well, then the other dude must have had tattoos because there were 3 people, 2 of them killed, 1 of them escapes.
Yeah.
The other 2 have to have that tattoo based on what we learn later.
Yep.
So both of them would have had it. You would have been like, hey, they got matching tattoos. So Max should have figured this out a long time ago.
Yep.
But Alex discovers this or whatever, calls Max, gets his fucking answering machine. Everybody has answering machines in this movie. And I'm like, it's 2008, right?
I mean,
don't some people have cell phones?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, why does everyone have a tape answering machine?
I mean, at the office, okay, for an answering machine in general, the whole tape thing, like that's definitely that's one where it's like kind of goofy noir, like.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it was just like, just use voicemail. I don't know. Like, if everyone has cell phones, why are you calling somebody's office with something this important?
Yeah.
Like, does Max not have a cell phone? Because Alex called his office and left a message of like, I'm going to be at your place.
Yeah.
And it's like, call him.
Yeah, right?
Oh, it was absurd. So Max realizes like, oh, Alex has some new information on this murder, whatever. Gets back to his apartment, realizes that some shit's gone down. He sees Alex's body on the floor, and then he is attacked by a series of jump cuts.
Yes.
That was one of the most confusing little sequences that I've seen in a long time. Obviously,
still not sure what happened.
I mean, thinking back on it now, it's like it had to have been the bad guy. It had to have been Lupino.
Yeah.
Who probably like went there to kill Alex for whatever reason. He was probably told to by everyone in charge, like in the corrupt police station or whatever. They're probably like, send him there to kill Max.
Yeah, so he can't follow the lead.
Yeah, but he doesn't kill him somehow, whatever. It's so poorly shot and so poorly edited that you have no idea what happens, and this, all of a sudden Max just wakes up in the hospital. It's like, okay, that all happened? Was it a dream? Was it a hallucination? No, it happened. Alex is dead. Okay, I guess we're just moving on.
Yeah, seemingly like the next day is when he woke up in the hospital, and they said that's when the wake for Alex was. Like,
oh yeah, that was quick.
There was a fucking 1 day turnaround on that. Like, not even. It's still like
really,
like a 12-hour turnaround on that case. Yeah. Like, what?
So Max wakes up in the hospital, and there is BB, who I figured out later in the movie, because at first I thought he was a cop. And then later I realized, like, oh no, he's like a CEO sort of guy.
He's the head of security.
Yeah, okay, he's the head of security at the Acer Corporation, whatever the hell.
Acer.
Yeah.
Is it Acer?
AESIR.
Oh, I guess
Acer.
Okay.
That's what they called it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not Acer, the computer company.
That's
Acer,
where my brain went. I was like, it's not. There was an E in that name. Okay. Continue.
Yeah. But yeah, he works there, and he knows Max's dead wife. Like, he knew her from work or whatever.
Yeah,
blah blah
she
blah.
worked at the company.
Yeah. As soon as the fucking camera faded in, and there's the guy sitting there talking to him, I was like, so he's in on it immediately. And I'm not sure how much of that is like subconsciously from the game. Because in the end, in the game, that guy is also a bad guy.
Okay.
But yeah, immediately I was just like, and he's a bad guy, but he's going to pretend to be a good guy for the next like 50 minutes of movie. And then we're going to get to the point where he reveals that he's a bad guy. And I'm going to be like, let's get it going. We know. We figured this out a long time ago. But he talks to him. They go to his office, and he gets Max some nice clothes to go to the wake in. And I'm like, why do they fit Max?
Yeah.
This is like a heavyset middle-aged man giving clothes to Mark Wahlberg, and they somehow fit him perfectly.
Yeah.
That was funny to me. But they go to the wake, and he goes in the house, and he talks to Alex's widow, who then turns around and slaps him. I just wrote the old widow slap. You knew that was coming.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as he walked in there, and she was going to give him some shit about it, and she does. And it's true. Like, she has a point.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, you made him feel like he didn't do enough.
Yeah.
To, like, help you figure this shit out. And it ate him up, and he wound up doing something that got himself killed.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, Max. Are you going to reckon with that? No.
Nope.
Alex is never brought up again.
Nope.
It's literally like, remember that partner that you got murdered because you couldn't let things go, or you couldn't just fucking figure it out yourself because it's right there in the goddamn picture? And it's like, oh yeah, well, oh well.
Yeah.
Like, dude, there's no justice. No justice for fucking Alex in this movie.
Seriously.
So at that point, Max is a suspect in both the murder of Natasha and now the murder of his partner, Alex.
Yes.
Who apparently was also like cut to pieces because I think his head was off.
Yeah, at the very least, he was missing his head.
Yeah, it looked like he was decapitated.
Tissue face like that blade.
Yeah, really. Oh, yeah, I guess that's what he did. Because I was thinking to myself, I was like, how did he rip people limb from limb? I was like, oh, right, he had that big giant sword at the end.
Yep.
So Max is a suspect, and they barely do anything with that.
Yeah, right.
Like he's a suspect, and they fucking have him go and talk to Ludacris, which is just so funny to me. Looking at these two acting as cops against each other, it's like, right. You were a fucking not New Kid on the Block. You were Marky Mark. And you're fucking Ludacris.
Yeah.
And you're talking to each other like your old cop buddies. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I don't buy it for a second. But he goes to talk to Ludacris, and essentially it's just like, you know, you're a suspect. And Max is like, yeah, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And he leaves. Yeah. And he just walks out. And it's like, okay, I guess I get that, like, they didn't have enough to just be like, you are under arrest.
Yeah.
But it's literally just like, all right, I guess you're just going to leave. Anywho, and we're just going to let you do all the shit that you want to do, because now he's like on the warpath, like, oh, I gotta there's a mystery to unravel here.
Yeah.
And he goes and does things that are like the obvious things that he would go and do, and the cops don't follow him or surveil him.
Yeah, they don't follow up on anything to
or
do with
meet him places or whatever. Because what's the fucking first thing after they talk to Ludacris? Oh, right. Him and Mona, Mila Kunis, they team up, essentially. Like, she's pissed off. She's like, my fucking sister's dead, and I think you did it.
Yeah.
And he's like, I didn't. And she's like, okay.
Well, yeah, I think the convincing line was that Mila Kunis said something about his wallet being at the crime scene, and he said, "Does that sound like something a homicide detective would miss?"
Oh yeah,
like,
and it was like, doesn't that sound like something someone who wants you to think that he wouldn't think of that want you to think?
but what if she thinks?
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah,
it was like that was enough for her, but okay, whatever. So they decided to team up. And the first thing that they got to do is they got to find Owen Green, which includes a ridiculous fucking scene where Max goes to Alex's old office, and he's walking through the fucking like precinct or whatever, his Alex's old team, because he was like the head of a fucking crew. I don't know what they're called. I don't know.
I think it
the
was,
actual
I
like
think
things.
it was like the homicide detective unit.
Yeah, whatever it was, he was the head guy there, and all the people under him like hate Max. They think he did it, which was another thing that I felt like they could have played with a lot harder, and they really didn't. It was just that scene where people were like, "Hey, what do you think you're doing here, mister?"
Yeah.
They were just like kind of annoyed at him.
Yeah.
So he like runs off and locks himself in Alex's fucking office, and he's looking for clues, and he finds Natasha's like phone log that has her last calls going to Owen Green, which is like, it's such that's like a tropey way to move along. It's like, who was the last person they called? We'll find them, get the phone records. Like it was very like, okay, I know none of this shit happened in the games. There's no level where you have to find a phone log, So he gets it. He meets up with Mona. They're like, oh, we got to find this guy. And I was like, all right, this is going to be like a big chunk of the movie. Like here comes the like big old MacGuffin thing where they're going to go to one person and be like, where's Owen? And then, we're going to go to this person and get sent over here and this back and forth. And they just go to him.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I know this guy, I guess. Because they show up at a building. They're searching through it. And I'm like, where are they? What are they doing? It's like a flop house apartment building.
Yeah.
And it's super shitty. And I'm like, okay, so they're looking for something. So they're following up. They're looking for people to help them find Owen.
Yeah.
And then they just show up at the door and they're like, Owen. I was like, oh, they found him.
Yeah.
And then he's immediately dead.
Yep.
And he gives them nothing.
Yep. He just rants about the demons and then falls out the window.
Yeah. And I was just like, why? Oh my God. You couldn't have made this a little more substantial. It was like literally it was just like, we have a thing. Let's go to him. He's dead. Well, what's next?
Yeah.
it didn't lead to the next thing.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell.
Because I'm pretty sure
he pulls him out the car. He smashes into the car. They just sort of look at it. Was that Max's car that he falls on?
It may have been.
It felt like they were going to like do something like, oh, my fucking car. But nothing happened. It was like, no, that was just a car, I guess. Yeah. Whatever.
Someone else is extremely inconvenienced now.
Mm-hmm. I was looking at my notes because I think the next thing that happens, because they keep cutting back and forth between Max doing his shit and the bald guy Lupino, Baldy McTattoo-Face, and what he's doing. And I literally just wrote down, I was like, I straight up do not understand these drugs or why Baldy slaughtered that junkie.
Yeah,
I have no clue what was going on in that scene. They had him tied into a chair. They like gave him a hit of the drug, and he was like, oh my God, that's so good. And then he was scared of demons or something like that. And then they cut him loose from the chair and they were like, gonna give him some more drugs. And then he crushed it with his boot. And it was like, oh, that was cruel. And then he just slaughters him with a sword. And it was just like, why did any of that happen? What does that mean? What is going on in this movie?
I have no idea.
What is he doing? You find out like several scenes later that they're like testing people to make an army. And it's like, so only like 1% of people will become strong from it.
Yeah.
And everyone else will just go crazy or whatever. But it's like, at this point, you must know that this guy isn't one of the 1%. Why are you strapping him into a chair and giving him more of the drug that you already know doesn't do anything to him and then murdering him for it?
Unless he's a different kind of junkie? I don't know.
It was just they didn't explain any of the drug stuff in the ways that they needed to explain it. They explained the dumbass background to it. It was like they were trying to make super soldiers and this and that, which is like, of course they were. They're always trying to make super soldiers. That's the point of everything, isn't it? All that crap they explain, but they don't explain like, why do people do this drug?
Yeah.
if it just gives you terrible hallucinations, I mean, unless you're 1% of people.
When the drug was being explained, they did say that it was like highly addictive.
Okay.
But
I mean, that's such a fucking cop out.
Yeah.
Of being like, so the effects are nightmarish every time, but it's so addictive that you can't help but do it again. Yeah. It's like, it would literally, it's like, it would be like if you knew every single time you did acid, you were going to have a bad trip.
Yeah.
You'd stop. No matter how addicted you were, you'd be like, anything is better than fucking dipping into that nightmare again. Why? Why would you do it? It's so dumb. But yeah, so he murders that guy and you're just left sitting there like, what the fuck is happening in this movie? And especially for someone who's played the games, I was like, I am so lost. I am so unfathomably lost at this point.
I did write, like, what the fuck does Tattoo Face have to do with any of this? Like, what? How? I don't.
He's just watching from the rooftops. There's several notes. I just write like, oh, there he is again. Yeah. Like, what is he doing up there?
And he was just like standing outside the door when like the whole party scene the first time.
Oh yeah, at the beginning, he's just standing there staring at Mark Wahlberg, and they don't share any words, and then they just move on.
Yeah, like what? Who is this? Who is this guy? Why is he here?
But see,
why does he matter? Like, explain a little bit something early on so that you can see where it possibly would be coming together in the end.
Yeah.
I was so lost.
I was going to say, that makes it sound way more intriguing than it really was. Like, who is this guy? Why is he here? It was really more like, well, he didn't seem important. Moving on. And then when he showed up again later, you're like, wait, that guy?
Yeah, like, why?
Why the fuck do I care about that guy?
It was more of, why is he here?
Who invited this fucking guy? So basically the next thing that happens, again, like they get a lead, the dude fucking jumps out a window, and they're like, well, that's about it. Yep. So the next thing that really happens, other than they go to the tattoo shop and the guy points out like what the tattoo is, like, oh, it's Norse, and it's a Valkyrie wing, and it's a protector. None of that mattered either. It was just simply like, people who do this drug get this tattoo. That's all you need to know. The whole like, people get it as protection, and he's like, protection from what? And I was like, shut up. None of this matters. Why are you asking that question? You're a detective who's looking for people. Like, you're not trying to figure out like, what are their beliefs? What do they truly believe about these things? Like, who fucking cares? Find the guy who killed your wife. Oh my God, how are you like not? How is that not your main thing? That's been your thing for fucking 3 years. But like the next thing that really happens, like him and Mona split for some reason. I don't even remember there being a scene. It was just like the next time you saw Max, he wasn't with her. Yeah, so
she was off doing her thing.
Yeah, she was off partying and doing whatever she wanted. So he's driving around, and there's this moment that is like so fucking like cheesy noir where it's just him driving, and you hear voiceovers, and it sends him to a storage house, like a storage warehouse thing. And I was like, okay, what the hell is this? I don't know what this is. And he goes in, and it's just like boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff. And you're like, is this police? Is this like an evidence room or something? And then he goes there, and it's like, no, it's his wife's shit. It's like, is this all his wife's shit? Is this his storage unit specifically? And he looks at a paper from Acer, the company that she worked at. And he sees that the logo has like a wing thing on it. And I was like, okay, fucking for one, because we know that Acer is involved with this drug and all that kind of shit. For one, there is no way they would link themselves to it that way.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? They would never design a logo that includes a wing that looks enough like the drug wing that all the people who do the drug are getting tattooed on their body. You know what I mean? Like, that would never happen.
Yeah.
But for two, since it apparently did, there is no way Max has missed this. This is the second huge thing where it's like, okay, so you have the guys who clearly had this tattoo, who were in the house that you shot and killed after they murdered your family.
Yes.
They both have this tattoo. We've established that. You should have been looking into this tattoo already.
Yeah.
But also, like, how is it just now clicking that the company that your wife works for also has the wing, like, logo that kind of matches that one? Like, again, it was just a case of, like, nothing new happened.
Yeah.
Nothing new gave him information that like unlocked a secret that he couldn't see before. It was literally just like, you are a bad detective.
Yeah.
A good detective would have solved this long ago.
Yeah.
Maybe you and Alex are clearly the worst.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole fucking thing with Acer itself, like the company itself, including Chris O'Donnell, who I could not believe was in the fucking movie. I was like, oh my God, yes. I was so excited that it was Chris O'Donnell. But he plays Jason. I didn't catch the last name, but he's one of the guys who works at the company, and he apparently knows a lot of shit about like what is happening. And Max goes to see this guy. Like, okay, first off, so BB, obviously bad guy the whole time. It's so clear. But Max goes and sits down with him, and they talk a little bit about Acer, and I think they specifically mention Jason's name. And then the next scene is BB talking to Ludacris and being like, well, first off, he goes off for like 3 minutes talking about a whole bunch of other shit. I think he like gives Max's backstory about like what happened to his wife and his kid and this and that and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's so they could show the flashback of it happening. Yeah.
And then they did that moment that I was waiting for where it's like, oh, and then it's going to do that fade from the flashback to now, and he's in the room now and it's empty and it's dark, and yep, they're going to do, there it is.
Yep.
I was waiting for it. But they waste all of that time and for the scene to end with him saying, I think you need to find him. I was like, you should have started with that.
Yeah.
Like, if it's time sensitive and you need to find Max Payne, don't monologue.
Yeah.
And then be like, oh shit, we probably should have been looking for him.
I just wasted a lot of time.
Yeah, he's got a way big of a head start. But then it's like the next day, and Max goes to Acer to go confront Jason.
Yeah.
And I was like, how are the cops not here already? How is this not, like, I was waiting for that to be a thing.
Yeah.
I was waiting for it to be like a setup, like, no, Max, you're walking right into it. They know you're coming here. But they're not.
Yeah.
Eventually, they show that Ludacris is just like wandering into the building. It was like, oh, I'd like to go up and see them. And they're like, okay, it'll be a few minutes. And then he just sits down and waits and whatever. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Why have you not already done this? You know this is the person he's going to. He just talked to BB about it. Like, this is the only place he's going. You should have called way early and been like, hey, if Max Payne shows up, you need to let us know. Because it's not like a secret that Max Payne is there.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like he like came in through the window like Batman or something. He just like, he was there as a person to talk to Jason. And then he locks the door on him and like gets all intimidating.
Yeah.
And then hilariously, he lets him make that phone call. Like the whole time, Jason is like freaking out because he's like, oh my God, this guy's here. And he knows that he was a part of all this shit that got his wife killed. So, you know, he's shitting his pants about this. And, you know, it's like, oh man. And he keeps like making eyes towards his phone on his desk and stuff. Like, oh man, you know, he's trying to figure out a way to like alert someone that there's a crazed man in here who hates me and is probably going to beat the shit out of me or something. And then Max just goes like, you need to make a phone call. And he's like, yeah, I think I better. And he picks up the phone and he like gets his secretary.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, Barbara, could I? And then Max rips it out of his hands and like throws it against the wall and starts beating the shit out of him. And I was like, why did you let him make the phone call?
Yeah.
You suggested it. You're like, oh, yeah, you got to make that phone call. Like, why did you let him do that to alert people to get the security up there? That eventually is what fucks the whole thing. Because if they had been chill, if Max had just kept his cool.
Yeah.
Because Jason gives it up.
Oh, yeah.
He's just like, I will give you fucking everything. Get me out of here because they will kill me about this, but I will give you everything. Literally, all the answers that you are searching for, Max, right here in human form.
Yes.
And Max just walks him out of the office straight into the line of fire.
Yep.
Like security guards everywhere, all with guns. He just told Max, like, they will kill me. You need to get me out of here.
Yeah.
And Max just waltzes him out there like, all right, well, I guess we're gonna. And then bam, they fucking take him out.
Yeah.
They kill him. Huge gunfight. Max steals the files that Jason had. Shoots out the fucking sprinkler system so that it's raining inside too in this movie. Does that ridiculous ass running shoot leap through that door at the end of the hallway. It was the funniest looking thing I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
And he fucking he like escapes and shit. He has a video that talks about Valkyr, the drug.
It was like a promo video for it.
Yeah, it was weird. But he and Mona sit and watch it and they learn like, oh, it's a drug, makes you super soldiers. They have an interview with Lupino, the guy who's fucking murdering everybody when he was like a staff sergeant, and him like talking about how great the drug is and how it makes him fearless and like he's got a protector and it makes him a better soldier and blah, blah, blah. So he's like the bad guy. They know that he's at a club called Ragnarok. And fucking Max is like, well, that's where I'm going then. He's the guy who killed my wife. As far as he knows, like, I'm going there and doing it. And Mona, who's a super badass, who's been like blowing people away with machine guns and like kicking ass all over the place, she just goes like, I can't go with you.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? I mean, she just doesn't.
She said that she would help him with anything, but that it seemed like it had something to do with her like saying it was like a death wish for him.
I mean, I guess, but like it seemed so silly to me that it was like, just have her come with to the gunfight. Like, she lost her sister. You'd think she'd be like, fuck it, I want some revenge too. Like, give her some like gusto or something. Not be like, whoa, I'm bailing on this, just for her to show up later anyway.
Yeah.
Which is like, come on. You knew it was coming, but it was just dumb. Like, just have her come with. Why are we playing this fucking dumb game where they're dancing around like, oh, I can't. Just fucking let them go. So he goes to the club and he shoots a bunch of dudes, and there's some bullet time. I'm not going to go through all the fucking like action sequences and junk. There's just lots of shotguns blasting people away.
Yes.
It really made me think, like, as we were watching it, I was like, this has to be like vastly different than the PG-13 version. Because there's so much blood, so many just like full body, like with shotguns, so many swears too. Like, there's a lot of like fucks and whatever where it's like, okay, they couldn't have gotten away with all of this. This must be like a drastically changed movie. So I appreciated watching the unrated cut for that. Like, oh man, the original one must have felt like really neutered. So Max murders a bunch of the fucking dudes. He murders his way to Lupino. They get in a big fight where essentially he uses the shotgun as a shield to block the sword that Lupino is trying to fucking cut him to pieces with.
Yep.
Fucking fights Lupino, and he's about to murder Max, and then he gets shot in the chest, and it was BB. And it was like, oh my God, BB, you're here to rescue. I wrote that. I was like, oh, thanks so much for that. You're still obviously bad, though. And like, as they're walking away, Max makes a reference to him about like, he didn't even recognize me. Or something like that. Like, it's like he didn't know who I was about Lupino. And it was like, okay, I guess because he figured he would, because he thought this was the guy that killed his wife and got away.
Yeah.
So it's like, why don't you remember me? But it's like, he's a fucking drug addict.
Yeah.
Who, as far as you're concerned, for the last 3 years has just been doing more drugs. You really think he's going to fucking remember your face?
Yeah, like you know that this drug makes people like hallucinate and see scary shit.
Yeah, how do you know he knew what your face looked like?
Yeah.
Like, it's just stupid, like that was like a clue thing. And that like kind of tipped off BB that he apparently had to murder Max now. Yeah. Because Max didn't believe that was the guy that killed his wife. Like, you really think that the story's over right there. Like, Lupino's dead. Max believes that he was the guy who killed his wife, so all right. But simply because he didn't recognize him, Max is like, that mustn't have been the guy. And then BB had to reveal that he is evil and that they're going to kill Max. Unless they were going to kill Max anyway because of all the trouble that's been going on. Yeah, that's possible.
Tie up all the loose ends.
So they fucking tie up Max and take him to the river. And they're going to throw him in it because they're bad guys. And he monologues about some confusing ass shit. It's like, this is the dumbest bad guy monologue I've ever heard. And then they stick some fucking vials of the drug in Max's jacket.
Yep.
Because they're going to make it look like he was apparently a druggie who drowned in the river.
Yeah, he committed suicide.
You know that they're not going to find any traces of that in his system, right?
Yeah.
Like, just because he has some vials on him, they're going to look at it and be like, yeah, this man has never taken this drug in his life.
Yeah, right?
They're not going to think he's a junkie. This is the dumbest thing. The only thing is so that Max can use him later. Then they chase him to the water because I forget even how he gets away. They, like, undo his restraints. And then he just like punches someone and starts running.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, just kill him. And he jumps into the water. And then that's where we get to the scene that started the movie where he's like choking and drowning in the icy water. And he's sinking to the bottom of the river. And it's like, oh, he's going to die. And it's like, no, he's not going to fucking die, movie. And he's like sinking and sinking. And then he has like a vision of his wife and baby. And like, oh, he's going to meet them. He's going to be with them. And then his dream wife is like, not yet. And he's like, holy shit. And he wakes up and floats back to the surface, eventually gets himself back onto the dock where he's like freezing to death. Because BB and Joe, his second in command, just leave.
Yep.
They're like, he jumped in the river. he'll freeze. Let's just leave.
Yeah.
It's like you literally like just wait for like an hour. Just sit up there for an hour.
Yeah.
If he comes up to breathe, there he is. Kill him.
Yeah.
If he never comes back up, then you're probably good.
Yeah.
But they leave so he can just get right back on the dock and nobody's there to hurt him.
Mm-hmm.
And since he's like succumbing to like hypothermia from being in the frozen river, he's like, well, I guess I have to take these drugs that will save me.
Yeah.
Because they're superhuman drugs. And he takes the drugs and he roars like Godzilla.
That
and
was awful.
That might have been my favorite moment of him just like it was the silliest fucking thing I've ever seen. Like from here through the rest of the movie was probably my favorite bits of just like absolute fucking ridiculousness.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
he's just okay. And so since Max is like on the warpath and he's fucking jacked up on these drugs, he just goes to the Acer building, the Acer Corporation building, and fucking shotguns his way through everybody.
Yep.
He's just trying to get to the roof to where BB is trying to escape. He's like calling this lady that we've seen like twice in the movie, who's apparently the like owner, CEO, whatever of the whole company. And he's like, yo, shit's going whack and I need a helicopter to come take me away.
Yeah.
And she's like, and hangs up on him, and he still thinks a helicopter's coming.
Yeah.
Which is like, I guess he's just really naive or whatever. But she never confirmed a She wasn't like, it's coming.
Yeah.
She was just like, meh, and just leaves him. And Max is murdering his way through the building. One of the things I really loved about that whole end sequence, because I think he gets shot in the leg as he's like jumping into the river. So he has kind of a limp through the rest of the movie. And that was a huge part of the game, where it's like once you get hurt to a certain percentage, your character starts moving differently. Like if it's a little bit, he's just kind of like holding his side or something.
Yeah.
And then when you're like right towards the end, it's like a real heavy like limp, like, oh fuck, I'm so fucked up. So I liked seeing that. I was like, I hope that was fully intentional.
Yeah.
But then it made me think of the thing that they completely whitewashed out of the movie, which was the fact that your health was painkillers. And it was literally just the whole fucking game is Max just like popping pills and cracking down on him to keep going. And I was like, fuck, that's something this movie would have needed.
Yeah.
Is just some like pulpiness to it of like, this dude's just fucking like, he's not getting better. He just can't feel it. You know,
Yeah.
like that was so evocative to me as a kid of just like, holy shit, this dude is just on the warpath.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't even fucking care if I'm dying as long as I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
Let's just go. And he murders his way through. He sees a bunch of angel, demon, monster, Valkyrie things because he's on the drug, which confused me because I was like, is he superhuman or is he seeing monsters? I thought it was one or the other.
Apparently
I didn't
it's
think it was both.
both.
But whatever.
Yeah.
So he's going, he gets up to the top of the building. BB's still waiting on the helicopter pad. This guy, you know, he's betrayed Max. You know, he's known him for so long. He used to be Max's dad's partner way back in the day. I guess they were cops together and shit.
Yeah.
Like this dude who's been in his life for so long is the one who murdered his family and is like, you know, kept all these secrets from him. And they get up to the roof and he's like, do you want my confession? And Max just fucking shoots and kills him and it's over.
Yep.
I was like, of all the times to have a generic action movie monologue scene, right there.
Yep.
The like, I'm up here to kill you, do your groveling or whatever the fuck, or, you know, try to talk me out of it or talk shit to me or, you know, something. Instead, it's just like, do you want me to confess? And it's like, nah, boom, shoot, dead, whatever. The sun comes out. Because of course it does. Because I it was at that moment I realized I was like, it's been night this whole movie. I was like, finally the sun shines on old Max Payne. And he's sitting up there and the cops show up and it just ends.
Yep.
It blew my mind at how much shit Max did that should have had like super crazy consequences to it that just don't matter later because he killed the guy who killed his wife.
Yeah, because he killed bad guys. It's okay.
Yeah, and like I liked the fact that because, you know, like if you're really thinking about the story and you're thinking about it in like a noir way and like going outside the law to solve this murder or whatever, it's like you either have to end it with like, and the hero has to face the consequences because that's the price you pay for doing what you do, or you need something super silly like in the video game where there's some guy from a secret society who will get you off and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, that's how they're rolling with it. But in this movie, it's just like, nah, you're good.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to come of it. Remember how you were a suspect in all those murders before? I guess we're just letting that go too.
Yeah.
Like everything. Your partner who got killed, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like,
we're just going to take your word for it that it was these other people that you also killed. Or
yeah. Like if he had gone to jail, I actually might have respected that ending where it's just like, and he just didn't give a fuck anymore. And he just murdered his way to kill the guy who killed his wife, and he got what he was looking for, and fuck this guy, and who cares what happens to me afterwards. But then the after credit scene is just like, no, he's cool.
Yeah.
Next week is going to be interesting just because it's like more recent. Mm-hmm. And I mean, not to talk too much shit about Mark Wahlberg, but actor wise, it's like Michael Fassbender. Mm-hmm. Really? We're Michael Fassbender? So you almost feel like the movie has to be better, right? It's Michael Fassbender's in it, but he has made some ridiculous choices over the years in terms of roles. So I am excited to see where it's going to go next week when we watch Assassin's Creed.
Yes.
That's a series you know very well.
Yes.
I've watched a bunch, but I have not played very much. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see all the like Easter eggs and the way that they do it, and I'm also intrigued as to how they are going to fuck it up. Because there's almost no way to not. Like it really feels like there's no way for people who make video game movies to not completely miss the point of a lot of very obvious stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that there's going to be something in this movie that one of us, most likely you, is going to watch and be like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah. Be like, what?
Yeah, I'm excited to see what that is. But I think that is going to wrap it up this week for Popcorn for Dinner. This is Jeff.
And Kelly.
Joe, why don't you calm the fuck down?